Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at a extremely cheap, wireless, cordless, rechargeable gaming mouse with RGB. We like RGB. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so today we'll be taking a look at a wireless gaming mouse with RGB, which can be used as a wired mouse as well, has a rechargeable battery and all that kind of good stuff. This is the Ziyou Lang, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. This is the X3 gaming mouse, and this has been sent to us kindly by Ugly Bob, so thank you very much, Ugly Bob. This has quite a few cool features. It's a really difficult one to review actually because it is an extremely cheap mouse. At the moment you can pick this up on Banggood and various other places for around about the £15 mark, which for £15 these days you can't buy a great deal of things. Maybe a few coffees, lunch if you're lucky. So a gaming mouse for £15 seems particularly cheap, especially considering it's a wireless one. So let's go through, take a look at the packaging, we'll go through the specs, give it a practical test on the laptop, see what it's like for actual day-to-day use and maybe try some gaming out, and then we'll come back at the end with my final thoughts. So starting off looking at the packaging, on the front there you've got the 2.5G, so this is the wireless spec. It's up to 2400 DPI, so not the highest, although saying that generally I do tend to use my mice around about the sort of 1500, 1600 DPI limit, so this should be absolutely fine. It does say something about specialised software, which as of yet I've not managed to find, so we maybe come into that a little bit later. We do have mechanical switches on here, which are rated for 100 million key presses, so yeah, that's pretty good, although it doesn't state exactly what manufacturer they're from, so yeah, I wouldn't get too excited. It's unlikely there are going to be things like Omron switches, so yeah, there is that. And best of all, we've got RGB lamp effects with 10 different settings, or at least that's what it says on the box. On the side there's some interesting logo on there, and it says Game for Peace, Lightweight Sports Champion 2020. Is it going to be any good in 2021? On the back we've got more of the same, so again goes through the specs there, shows you kind of like a wireless antenna, so to confirm that obviously it can be used as wireless. It does come in 4 different colours, so there's an option of black, white, yellow and green, and this particular one is the white one. So I'm not entirely sure who the yellow or the green ones would actually be applicable to. I'm not too sure if that's something which is in great demand, but I'm sure the black and the white ones will be the popular choices. So taking this out of the packaging, first of all we do get a thank you. We get a ton of bubble wrap, considering the size of the packaging. We get the mouse itself, and also there is a micro USB charging cable. Not a particularly long one there, but useful, and again, if you haven't got one lying around, which these days actually micro USB is becoming more and more scarce, so I guess having a smaller cable just handy, just in case you need it. Maybe you can slip it into your backpack or your laptop carry case, that sort of thing. Yeah, relatively handy. Further inside the box there is actually a user manual of sorts, which is another one of these things where I do wonder where they get their specs from for some of these devices. So having a quick look down through the specs here, so it's saying that the optical sensor is actually a Broadcom 199. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of that before, so maybe someone in the comment section can let me know if that is a reasonable sensor or not. No idea whatsoever. It says there's 16 RGB LED lamps, so 16 RGBs around the outside edge. The lithium battery is 800 milliamp hours, and the product weight is 89 grams plus 5 grams. That's with the lithium battery added. 7 buttons on there. USB cable length is 150 mil, which yeah, about 6 inches. So yeah, that sounds about right. Response rate is between 500 and 1000 hertz. The acceleration speed is 22G, and the refresh rate is 6000 frames per second. So normally that is kind of how you would talk about the DPI. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that works. Anyway, wireless connection is up to 10 meters, as you would expect with the 2.4 gigahertz range. DPI adjustment of 800, 1600 and 2400 DPI, and the default setting is 800. Support for Windows 98 and all the way through Windows up until Mac OS, and obviously Windows 11, etc. Pretty much if it supports USB, then you can plug it in. I've used these sorts of things on Android devices, set-top boxes, all those kinds of things, and never had any problems, as we shouldn't do with this particular one. So let's take a closer look at it. First thing you'll notice is the honeycomb design, which actually is pretty striking. This is one of those things which some people may like, some people may dislike. It does kind of reduce the weight of the mouse. Again, this is around about 90 grams, so for a wireless mouse with RGB lighting and a rechargeable battery, it's actually pretty decent. You do find the slightly heavier mice of the wired variety that are in and around that sort of 100 grams mark. So yeah, it's a little bit lighter. It's not what I would consider ultra lightweight. I would actually consider this to be quite a large mouse as well. It is more definitely designed towards right-handed people, as there is a slight roll-off towards that right-hand side. As a left-hander, it's still perfectly comfortable and perfectly usable, and yeah, it just feels like a regular mouse. The actual plastic, the way it's been cut into honeycomb, doesn't have any kind of sharp edges or protrusions, so when you have got your hand on there and you're using like a palm grip, it doesn't actually feel uncomfortable or sharp or in any way offensive. So yeah, that's pretty good. On the top, you've obviously got the wheel, which has got a very mild indentation, not a massive one. So if you're scrolling, it does feel quite precise, so we could test that later. Obviously, you've got the mouse middle button as well, nice and clicky. Then you've got your left and right mouse. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Doesn't seem to be any sort of slack in the buttons, and there's very limited pre-travel there, so yeah, not too bad at all. You've also got a DPI button on the top to cycle through various DPI settings. On the left-hand side, we've got the traditional back and forward buttons, which are nice and clicky, and for me as a left-hander, I generally tend to use those for reload and drop weapon in things like CSGO, back and forward in Windows for browsing, etc., and Discord. It does require a little bit of an extra kind of get in there sort of thing. It's not entirely comfortable for me, to be honest with you, using that, but as a right-hander, yeah, they're going to be absolutely perfect and in a pretty decent position. So yeah, absolutely fine. Some people, especially left-handers, might prefer those buttons to be slightly further forward, but yeah, I guess it is what it is. Feels like quite a nice mouse. Doesn't skate around particularly smoothly. Absolutely fine, not a problem, but yeah, not as smooth as some we've had. The feet on the bottom, on the back, relatively small surface area there. Not sure if they've actually, yeah, they have actually got some very small amount of protective tape off, so let's quickly take those off. And actually as well, on the front, we've also got the 2 feet as well, which are separated. I guess really for smoothness, it would have been nicer to have those as being continual ones that go across the entire sections, front and rear, but I guess that would be something that would add to the cost and potentially add to the weight as well. So with those sticky bits off, which are stuck all over me, moderately smoother. I'm not sure if you can actually pick it up, obviously from the microphone sounds. Yeah, there's a little bit more travel to it now, so certainly those little sticky bits, definitely take those out and you will find it a smoother experience. So actually going further onto the bottom, so we've got various bits and pieces here. So obviously you've got the optical sensor in the middle, that Broadcom sensor. You've also got a RGB light there, so that is a lighting button to cycle through the lights, which we'll show you shortly. There is a power switch, so you've got off. There's a middle section, which turns the mouse on, but doesn't turn on RGB, so if we do that now, so that is now in the on section, so power saving mode, that will last for a lot longer. And if you press it down again, then that goes into our RGB mode, in which case our RGB lights will start illuminating, which you've probably seen from some of the B-roll. If you press the button, then again it will go in and go through the lighting cycles. So we have the default one, and there's another chase one, usual kind of RGB stuff. Then you've got the color flow, which looks very nice. The RGB LEDs you can kind of see, yeah, they are relatively defined. The camera is pretty much, from what I can see from the monitor over there, the camera is pretty much picking up what the eye can see. So there are definitely hot spots in the illumination around the outside edges. I wouldn't say it's absolutely horrible or anything, it looks absolutely fine. And you've got RGB on the actual wheel as well, as you'd expect, and also there's a logo inside there for the company, which is also illuminated. The RGB lighting turns off if you're not using the mouse. There is kind of power down feature, so it will kind of go to sleep unless you actually move it or click a button. So potentially it's going to have good battery life, that kind of stuff. Moving around to the front, so on the front we've got our micro USB connection there, so if you want to use it as a wired mouse, you certainly can do. And also I should mention as well, on the bottom is the actual receiver or transmitter, however you want to look at it, which actually is quite difficult to get out. Unless you've got particularly long nails, you may struggle with that. And once it's in there, so you're not going to lose it in your bag or anything, but actually getting it out is a little bit of a pain. So we'll plug this into the laptop. And there we go, it's picked it up straight away. he says, and oh yeah, that is pretty responsive. So on a laptop, obviously you can't quite see this, so that's the low, medium, and high. So medium, I think is going to be best. Yeah, seems pretty good. Quite tactile. The buttons all do what they're meant to do. The scrolling. Sometimes if you scroll very slowly with these cheaper mice, then they don't actually recognise that you've actually scrolled. So if you're reading, say, a document or a spreadsheet or something, and you're slowly scrolling through, sometimes it doesn't always register, but this seems to register all of it, and even quite fast. Yeah, scrolling absolutely fine. So yeah, really good. Right click, yep, that's responsive enough. Left click works absolutely fine. It does what it's meant to do. I actually really like this. I think in the white, it's actually quite a statement piece. Some people may prefer, if you're maybe working in an office and you've got this slipped into your laptop bag, then maybe the black version might be slightly more stealthy, and at least that way when you're in the office you can move it up a notch, turn off the lighting on the side, and to most people it's just going to look like a standard mouse. They wouldn't have very much of an idea of what's going on. I think in the white it does look quite striking, so if you've got a nice kind of monochrome setup, maybe you want a white mouse, go keyboard and all those kinds of things. And again, the RGB is a very nice touch. Doesn't appear to remember the RGB settings, so if you do want to kind of have a specific type of RGB, such as the flow, if you turn the mouse off and then turn it back on, it doesn't recall the settings, so that is a little bit of a pain, but yeah, not the end of the world. And to be honest with you, again, for around about £15 for a mouse, what do you actually expect? It seems to work very well, even on this IKEA desktop surface, which actually is problematic for some mice. It does seem to track actually very, very well. The lift-off distance, there's not a great deal of lift-off distance there, so if you do lift up a little bit, it will move slightly. But yeah, I think it's actually pretty decent. For the money, you can't go too far wrong. It's very difficult to complain about a mouse like this for that sort of money. So let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. Thanks massively to Ugly Bob for sending it to us for review purposes. And yeah, that's going to wrap this one up. So I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.